Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy. Without any further interruptions, enjoy the What If. Chapter 45, Project Night. Northern Afghanistan. February 13, 2009, 1205H local. So, need some help getting out? Naruto asked, but it looks like he underestimated the terrorists' paranoia since shouting is coming from the other side of the door. Come on, I need some answers quickly, he urged. Tony's thinking on how to proceed. Usually, he would just get out of there, but his newly developed sense of morality that came when his daughter arrived in the world is messing with his brain. He looked towards Yinsen and asked a question that will determine his decision. What do they want with me? Tony asked. Yinsen released a sigh and quickly formulated an answer. The voices outside started getting louder, which added more pressure to the situation. Frank decided he needs to prepare for any stupid decision the billionaire makes, so he took 2 metal rods and walked towards the side of the door. He readied himself to bash some skulls in. They are your most loyal customers. The 10 rings want you to make them the Jericho. The only thing they can't buy from their source. Yinsen answered. Tony got all that he needed from Yinsen. Get us out of here. Tony told Naruto. Bring us to the mansion. I need to pick up something. Naruto suddenly became extremely giddy and dragged Tony and Yinsen towards Frank. Good thing, Tony had the presence of mind to carry the car battery powering his electromagnet. Come on, man, grab on, we got to go, Naruto said while extending his free hand towards Frank. When Frank hesitated, Naruto grabbed onto him, and the whole group disappeared. Just in time, too, since the door opened not long after. Stark Mansion, Malibu, Los Angeles. February 13, 2009, 0035H local. The group appeared in Tony's underground garage. Frank managed to stay upright, even against the onslaught of disorientation. Tony and Yinsen, on the other hand, dropped to the floor with Yinsen being the worst off since his one shake away from barfing. Motherfucker. So that's how you do it? Tony exclaimed. He always wondered how Naruto could get in and out of the mansion without triggering any security measure. In the end, he just gave up and just ordered Jarvis to report when he's spotted inside the house. What is it? Quantum entanglement? Wormholes? He asked, genuinely curious on how Naruto does it, his scientific and analytical mind screaming at him to figure it out. That's a secret, man, Naruto answered cheekily, causing Tony to grumble. Have you finished it? Naruto asked. Not quite, Tony replied while slowly getting up on his feet. He carried the car battery and hobbled over towards the work table. You know it's been tossed at the back burner ever since Morgan came. When he reached the desk, he double-tapped the corner causing it to glow. Jarvis, pull up Project Night and the arc reactor design, he ordered. Certainly, sir, and may I say it's good to see you somewhat okay. Jarvis replied. The sudden appearance of another voice caused Frank to heighten his alert level but quickly calmed down when he saw Tony and Naruto remained calm. Should I inform Ms. Potts of your arrival? He asked. What time is it? Tony asked, no idea how long he's been out cold. It's currently 1:45. Jarvis answered. I've only been out for around 3 hours. Fuck, getting blown up really messes with your head. Tony mused to himself after quickly computing the time difference between LA and Afghanistan. Don't wake them up, I'll tell them myself later. Of course, sir, Jarvis replied before the holo table turned on, showing the 3D plans for Mk1 and the arc reactor. Frank pulled Yinsen towards the chair near the table since the travel hit Yinsen hard. Where the hell are we? Frank asked Naruto. LA, specifically Tony's garage, Naruto answered. Naruto's assertion surprised Frank, but his straightforward and military thinking saved him a lot of headaches. Curtis thing? Frank asked. Yup, Curtis thing, Naruto replied. Frank then filed away the whole thing as something he would no think about and think of as something he would never figure out. You got beer and food? Frank asked Tony, who's busy flicking away stuff at the holo board and talking to the weird robot voice. Food can be found on the counter to your right, and the beverages are inside the refrigerator under it, Mr. Castle. Jarvis was the one who replied. Fuck, that's just weird, Frank mumbled to himself while going to the counter. Yo, Yinsen, want some? he asks the still dizzy Yinsen as he was picking up some food. Just water, Yinsen replied. Frank picked up a few things, but he made sure to get enough beer. When he got back to the table, he placed a water bottle in front of Yinsen and dumped the rest of what he got in front of him. Naruto, beer, Frank asked while lifting a can. Sure. Frank tossed the can towards Naruto. He then opened it and took a swig out of it. What's he doing anyway? Frank asked, gesturing towards Tony. Finishing a project that's been in the back burner for too long. Naruto answered with a shrug, but he noticed Frank's confused expression, so he continued. You three can't suddenly appear stateside when you should have been kidnapped. That'll send warning bells to everyone, and a whole bunch of investigation would occur. That's why I was just going to leave you guys in the middle of the desert so that the search party could find you guys. Frank understood Naruto's reasoning. The military would be all over up Naruto's ass the moment they find out that someone can get in and out of any situation quickly. But Tony wanted to get back here, so he probably wants to fight his way out of the hole. He finished. He's going to fight his way out. He'll turn tail as soon as the first bullet is fired. Frank retorted skeptically. I wouldn't be so sure about that. Naruto replied. He helped me take down the mob in Vegas, you know. Frank remembered the news about that one, but hearing Naruto's involved made the whole thing make more sense. He's not a fighter or a soldier, Frank said, pointing out the obvious. He won't be able to take down all those terrorists. He offered his opinion. You can join too if you want. Naruto retorted. Give a kid a nuke, and he can change the tides of war. Same concept here, he said, subtly referring to himself. Frank couldn't exactly deny Naruto's statement. But it begs the question, what is Stark making? Tony has been working on the night in between the Jericho and Jarvis. It came to him after the situation in Vegas. Being left in the sidelines through the whole ordeal left a bad taste in his mouth, so he started on the project right after he returned to LA. It just slowly gets sidelined as he began to work on Jarvis and when Morgan arrived. He has 90% of the things done, but the remaining 10% are the crucial mechanics and electronics that need to be streamlined through continuous testing. That's why he's removing a lot of part design to make the fabrication time shorter. The arc reactor is the problem. Tony needs to redesign the whole thing so that it could function as an electromagnet as well as a high-output electric source to power the night. Run the simulations, Tony ordered when he was satisfied enough with the modifications he made. The end result of his changes is an ugly behemoth that just wants to make him puke, but desperate times call for desperate measures. Yes, sir. Running it now. Simulation finished. The prototype reactor would produce 1 gigajoule per second. The suit, on the other hand, would only handle 10 minutes of rigorous use. Jarvis reported. That's a lot shorter than I thought. Tony said to himself. How long would the fabrication take? 6 hours, sir. However, the arc reactor needs more precise hands. Jarvis replied. I should have known it will never be that easy. Tony complained with a shake of his head. He walked over to Yinsen and tugged him by the collar. Wakey, you're going to help me upgrade this, he said while tapping his chest. Yinsen had no choice but to agree. Tony then looked towards Naruto and Frank. You two are helping too. Ha ha ha. No way, man. I need to check with my girlfriend first. I just left her in the apartment with our roommate. Naruto replied quickly before getting roped in. Why the hell do you still have a room here if you got an apartment? Tony asked with an incredulous look. I like the view, Naruto answered with a shrug. Wait, is that roommate of yours the same chick that's been joining your threesome? Tony asked with overflowing curiosity. Even the always serious and loyal Frank Castle perked up hearing Tony's question. Yep, I just told you. I left them in the apartment on the bed, Naruto replied, not seeing anything wrong with his answer. I just want you to know. I fucking hate you right now, Tony stated with conviction. Yinsen and Frank silently agreed with Tony's assertion. Tony released a sigh and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Just go already. Be back by 8, he said. Sure thing. Anything I need to bring back? Naruto asked. Nah, got everything here, Tony answered. Bring me something I can use to shoot people, Frank amended. Tony let out a snort and walked towards an empty wall. This drew everyone's attention. He placed his palm relatively high up the wall. After a few moments, the wall split open, revealing a small armory. "Believe me, Frank, I got everything," Tony reiterated with a victorious grin. Frank checked the loadout, and he has no choice but to be impressed. "I think we're going to get along just fine," Frank stated. "You better not let Pepper know about this," Naruto warned before suddenly disappearing. "Do we really need to go back using that?" Tony asked, which caused Yinsen to turn green all over again. Natasha's Safe House, New York. February 13, 2009, 0400H local. Naruto appeared inside the living room, and he immediately went towards the bedroom while making sure he doesn't wake up Jessica. When he got inside, he noticed that Jessica is the only person on the bed. He looked around and saw light coming out from under the door of the bathroom. Naruto approached the door and knocked. "Naruto?" Natasha asked from the other side of the door. "Yes, it's me, Haim," Naruto answered. "Wait a minute, I'm getting out in a sec," Natasha replied. Naruto walked back towards the bed and sat on it. A few moments later, Natasha got out of the bathroom wearing her full combat suit. "Good thing you came by. I need a ride," she said while checking her gear and walking out of the bedroom. "Why and where?" Naruto inquired, following Natasha out. "Fury got the report about Stark's kidnapping. He wants everyone to report in," Natasha replied, wearing her boots. "Can I come?" Naruto asked with puppy dog eyes. "I'll be invisible, I promise," he added. Natasha thought about how much security protocols she's going to break, but no one can resist that particular look. It's at the same level as Lila's begging face. She has no idea how it was possible, but it's there. "All right, come on," Natasha agreed exasperatedly, although she's laughing inside. "Yay." Naruto let out a small childish cheer before holding Natasha's hand. He looked at Natasha and waited for her signal before disappearing. Triskelion, Washington, D.C. February 13, 2009, 0420H local. The pair appeared at Natasha's office. Natasha took a few seconds to recollect herself. A whole lot of improvement compared to her first experience with it. "You're going to watch only. Don't do anything. I don't want Fury to have an aneurysm," Natasha ordered. Naruto just nodded before doing a single hand sign and slowly disappearing from her view. When she can't see him anymore, she walked out of the room and headed straight to the meeting room sent to her by Fury. It took a few minutes of going around the building, but Natasha eventually reached her destination. She went straight in without knocking. She saw a large group of people already inside, including Phil and Clint, which she immediately went to. "Any news?" Natasha asked as soon as she sat down. Of course, she could just ask Naruto, but it would only make it a lot harder to lie if she knows anything beforehand. Around 10 a.m. local, Tony Stark's convoy from Bagram Air Base to Kabul had been ambushed. Everyone's dead but accounted for except for 2 passengers, Tony Stark and an unidentified tech. All signs point toward inside job but no proof as of yet except for 3 things. Somehow, all choppers are either in use or out of commission. Then, the convoy is guarded by rookies. Not one of them experienced the sand for more than 3 months. Finally, no patrols were near the ambush point even though the road from Kabul and Bagram should be secured. Phil answered with a surprising amount of detail. "That's all I know, though," he added. "I think it's more than enough," Clint joked. Fury entered the room with authority a few minutes later with Hill right behind him. The small chattering inside immediately died down. He walked towards the podium and eyed everyone. "As you have heard, Tony Stark's convoy has been ambushed while on its way to Kabul. Preliminary reports indicate that they took Tony Stark and someone pretending to be a maintenance officer for the Jericho missile. The tech is now identified as Sergeant Frank Castle. Force Recon," Fury summarized. "Force Recon? Why is he posing as a tech?" Clint asked. "We have no idea what he is doing there. What we do know is that he's supposed to on vacation after coming home from his tour in Afghanistan. We only identified him through facial recognition." Fury replied. Natasha had an idea of how Castle got roped in, but she won't say it now. Search parties had already been sent with no results. "That's where we come in. I want all of you to find any chatter of this happening. Look into the Bagram itself for any sign of an inside job. I also want you to look into Sergeant Castle himself. Coulson, you're going to Obadiah Stane to assess the possibility of Stark making a deal to save his hide. Do the same thing with Virginia Potts too. Barton, you're going to Afghanistan with a strike team on you. Make sure to bring a medic in case something went awry. Romanov, work your contacts to find anything at all. He ordered. Natasha's order, of course, is a cover for her to extract information on Naruto. Fury already accepted the fact that Naruto just knows a lot more than he is letting on. Fury was about to shout at everyone to move when somebody knocked on the door. Fury gestured for one of the people close to the door to open it, revealing an agent carrying a package. The man went inside and handed it over to Fury. Natasha wanted to facepalm hard when she saw it. She specifically told Naruto not to do anything. Sir, a package was delivered in the reception address to you. We scanned it 3 times to make sure it's clean. The agent reported. Fury opened the package and saw a piece of paper inside instead of the usual file folder. He picked it up and read it. Don't worry, I got it, Baldy number 1. Maria Hill took a peek at the paper and choked herself to stop her laughter. Fury dropped the paper inside the box and glared at everyone inside the room. What are you waiting for? Christmas. Go, Fury shouted, sending most of the people inside the room to scurry away. When all personnel not in the know are out of the room, he stared at Natasha. I'm going to kill your fucking boyfriend. He promised. Chapter 46. Lemon 1. Natasha's Safe House, New York. January 31, 2007, 2100H local. Nice place you have here. Naruto complimented as soon as he walked into the door behind Natasha. The pair have just managed to get out of the Wakandan party. When Naruto asked Natasha where she would like for him to drop her off, she said New York. The two then walked for quite a while before they reached Natasha's apartment located in a medium-rise building located in Washington Heights. Yeah, this is one of my safe houses that S.H.I.E.L.D. knows about. They want me to monitor someone from down the hall. Natasha replied while removing her jacket, revealing her almost transparent white top and the outline of her bra. She walked towards the kitchen to grab a drink. Make yourself at home. Do you want anything? She asked. Nah, I'm good, Naruto replied. His mouth was oddly salivating and dry at the same time when he saw Natasha's figure. He's working hard just not to turn into a bubbling idiot. Kurama's jeering to just fuck her didn't help him any. Natasha noticed Naruto's blank stare to nowhere in particular. Naruto. Hey, Naruto, are you okay? Natasha called his name, breaking him from his trance. Naruto shook his head to remove the cobwebs. Yeah, just thinking about what T'Challa told me. Naruto lied. I should probably go now. He added, thinking about how he should remove himself before he could do something he regrets. Oh, Natasha silently let out, hiding her disappointment. She had so much fun in the last few days that she doesn't want it to end abruptly. Even if they could just chat for the whole night, she would love it. Naruto started to walk out of the door, a heavy feeling settling on his chest. He turned to face Natasha again when he crossed the threshold. Just toss the knife to the ground if you're ready for our second date. Naruto said with a wink, hiding his disappointment with how the night would end. Okay, Natasha replied with a small smile. At least she's the next one that would dictate when they would meet again. Naruto didn't know what else to do at this point, and he's just standing around awkwardly, so Natasha decided to throw him a bone. Aren't you supposed to give a kiss goodbye before leaving? She asked. Her voice is dripping with sensuality. Naruto's posture suddenly changed from awkward to alert, thinking about how maybe the night could end in a more memorable note. He just has no idea how right he is. Naruto raised his hand and cupped Natasha's face. He leaned in close, keeping his eye open until the last second before contact, trying to remember every detail of this moment. He even unconsciously activated his Shinigami, forever imprinting the moment in his brain. Good thing Natasha closed her eyes when she felt Naruto's warm hand on her face. She could feel the calluses on his hand, especially the thumb. The rough texture highlighted by her heightened senses. If that's how his hands feel, what more could his lips do to her? She didn't have to wait long, though, because she felt Naruto's chaste kiss on her lips. Natasha finally conceded that there's some truth to those cheesy romance movies because she felt fireworks going off. The contrast to how all those other kisses she experienced before is massive. All too quickly for her preference, the kiss ended. Both of them opened their eyes as Naruto pulled back. They can see the hunger, the longing they have for each other. Fuck it, Naruto whispered to himself as he saw Natasha shyly bit her lips. He's throwing caution to the wind and just went at it again. Naruto gave Natasha a deep kiss without any warning and slowly pushed her inside the apartment. He closed the door by kicking his foot backward. He's trying to gauge Natasha's willingness to move forward by looking for any sign of resistance, but it seems like she's all for it too, so he started cupping her perfectly shaped ass. Natasha couldn't help but release a purr of pleasure when Naruto started massaging her butt. She started removing Naruto's jacket. A real challenge since he doesn't seem to want to separate from her. Naruto took Natasha's lead and started stripping her too. He momentarily activated his Sharingan again to find the bedroom. He started leading them to the bedroom, leaving a trail of clothes behind. Natasha had no idea they were moving to the bedroom until she felt something hit the back of her legs. Her surprise caused her to separate from Naruto for a moment and looked around. She noticed three things right away. 1. They are in the master bedroom, no idea how Naruto managed to find out where it is. 2. Naruto has stripped her down to her underwear, somehow removing her skinny jeans while not removing her boots. Finally, Naruto has a massive erection going on, only stopped by his pants. It's not fair, Natasha said with a small pout. What's not fair? Naruto asked. You're still wearing your pants while I'm here standing in my underwear. Natasha explained while tugging on her panties and bra, giving Naruto a show. That can easily be arranged. Naruto replied with a small grin. He unbuttoned his pants and shimmied it off, causing one of men's worst nightmares, a lady laughing as soon as you get your pants off. Ha ha ha, oh my god, Natasha let out a full-bodied laugh. Where did you find that? She asked. Naruto let out a sigh of relief. It seems Natasha was laughing at his underwear. Hey, it's awesome, Naruto defended. I'm not denying that it's awesome, Natasha replied, placating Naruto. But where did you get a bright orange boxer with a fox eating ramen on it? Akihabara, Naruto confessed with a dropping expression. Don't be sad, Natasha whispered close to Naruto's ears. She grabbed Naruto's impressive length through the boxer and started stroking it. We still have a long night in front of us, she added before turning them around and pushing Naruto onto the bed. Natasha took a step back and did a small dance, shaking her hips to an imaginary tune and moving her hands across her body. Making sure she doesn't reveal too much too early. Naruto is enjoying the show a little too much. His boner is straining against his boxers. His last shred of self-control snapped when Natasha unfastened the front clasp of her bra but held it in place with her arms. He pulled Natasha onto the bed and forcefully removed her arms from her chest. Naruto placed both of her arms above her head and held it in place with his left hand. He moved his lips to her ears and whispered in a gravelly voice. You tease too much. Naruto bit her ear before moving down her body, leaving small kisses on her milky white skin. When Naruto reached her chest, he moved the bra away using his teeth, revealing her beautiful, shapely breast. At the center of each breast is a pinkish-brown areola topped by a large nipple. He kissed around left Natasha's areola before grabbing the nipple with his teeth, making her release loud moan. Natasha's senses are continuously assaulted with pleasure. The slight show of domination turned her on. Along with Naruto's nipple play and his right hand unconsciously massaging her inner thigh, she might just come without him touching her pussy. It seems she's not too far off since when Naruto unlatched from her left nipple and started paying attention to the right one, she released a small orgasm, drenching her black lace panties more. She let out a small whine while shaking her hips to let Naruto she wanted more. Good thing Naruto took the hint since he started moving down her body, still leaving little nips and kisses behind. Naruto released Natasha's arms and spread her legs apart. He placed small kisses on her inner thigh while his hands rubbed it up and down, further heightening her senses. Without warning, he ripped off her panties. That's one of my nicest pairs. Natasha whined without any heat behind her voice. I'll fucking buy you a store, Naruto replied. He ran his right thumb up and down her labia, particularly paying attention to her clitoris while his left hand keeps on massaging her abdomen and thighs. "So you're a natural redhead, huh?" he commented with a small chuckle, causing Natasha to slap the back of his head lightly. Naruto did a light pass through her folds with his tongue, tasting her sweet nectar. Natasha released another light orgasm. She can't even moan since her voice is like getting away from her. Naruto kept on lapping up the juices she's releasing while occasionally giving deeper passes inside of her. His tongue is scraping the insides of her walls while he continuously plays with her clitoris and nipples. All she could do was grab onto his hair and squeeze her thighs around his head. Natasha can't even count how long it'd been or how many orgasms she released, but she knows she needs something a little more substantial. She pulled Naruto up by the hair to her face and kissed him deeply. Tasting herself inside his mouth just makes her all the hornier. "Removed it," Natasha whispered. Naruto quickly stood up and removed his boxers, revealing his 10-inch cock to all its glory. He covered her with his body again and kissed her. "Condoms?" Naruto asked between kisses. "Are you clean?" Natasha returned. "Yes." "No need. Just fuck me," Natasha ordered a little desperately. Naruto grabbed his cock and lined it up with Natasha's folds and thrust it in. Natasha never felt so filled before. Her walls are straining just to keep Naruto's cock in. She involuntarily bit Naruto's collar just to keep herself from screaming. It's sad to say, but it's like she's a virgin all over again, back in the red room where the matrons forced a dildo inside of them. Luckily for her, Naruto had the presence of mind not just to start thrusting in and out of her. She needs time to adjust to his size and for him to adjust for her tightness. "You can move now," Natasha whispered to Naruto after a few minutes. Naruto started with small motions, making sure that Natasha doesn't get hurt while they're having sex. But with how wet she is right now, Naruto quickly sped up his thrust as well as adding different motions. It continued for a while before he felt something spraying on his cock and abdomen accompanied by tightening of her pussy and tensing of her body. "Did you just squirt it?" Naruto asked, to which Natasha shyly nodded. "Oh, that is so hot," he exclaimed before turning Natasha around and started fucking her doggy style while pulling her hair back until her walls tightened again. But this time, Naruto went with the flow and released his load deep inside her. Natasha could feel his hot seed flowing inside her, which caused her to orgasm again. After coming down from her high, she could liquids flowing down her thigh. She has no idea if it's Naruto's cum or her juices, but it sure is coming from her pussy. Naruto didn't even soften up after the release, so she turned around without removing his cock inside of her and laid him down. Her flexibility making the maneuver a lot easier. Natasha rode Naruto in a cowgirl position. She grabbed his hands and placed it on her chest, encouraging him to knead and play with them. She moved her hips up and down, left and right, forwards and backward, even small circles, coaxing his cock to release more of his cum. But Naruto somehow keeps hitting her G-spot, sending her to either a series of orgasms or a long one. For once, she didn't mind the experience she acquired. Naruto is watching mesmerized at how erotic Natasha is moving right now. He could honestly say he never saw something like this before. It didn't take long before he felt that familiar pull again. He grabbed Natasha's hips and pulled her down, ramming his cock up as deep as it could go. Natasha felt his dick impale her deeper than she ever felt, causing her walls to tighten again. Just like before, he released his cum inside her. This time, it partially bloated her abdomen. She knows that one small jolt and all his cum would rush right out, so she laid on top of him. "Wow," Natasha let out while brushing her hair up with her hands. She never felt this exhausted and energized at the same time. "You could say that again," Naruto replied, his cock still inside her. He could feel the small quivers of her walls. He gave one little kiss on Natasha's crown. Chapter 36.5. Natasha's Safe House, New York. June 30, 2007, 1900H local. "Is he finally out of his self-righteous streak, huh?" Jessica asked, exasperated. "Don't get me wrong. I had fun with those dates, but that's not exactly what we agreed on." "Not really. We need to give him the last push," Natasha replied. The two of them are sitting on the couch. Natasha called her over while Naruto is off doing one of his stuff to talk about their arrangement. How hard is it to get a guy into a threesome? Isn't that like on their top list right down below a harem and having a large dick? Jessica exclaimed vulgarly. Oh, he has no problems with the second one. Natasha automatically replied before clearing her throat, pushing her embarrassment away. He's just an emotional guy. He needs some form of connection before doing anything intimate with someone. She explained. Jessica released a groan. What's your plan? She asked. We're going to have sex. Natasha replied with a sexy grin. Jessica choked on her spit when she heard Natasha's answer. What? Jessica yelled in surprise. Natasha moved closer towards Jessica and started to run her hands from her neck down her busts. She moved closer to Jessica's ear and blew a single puff of air. We're going to have hot lesbian sex. The moment Naruto entered that door, his instincts would take over. Natasha continued sexily, eyeing her like she's her prey. That's when Jessica notices their attire. Natasha's wearing a red lace panty and black string blouse, while she is wearing dark blue short shorts and a semi-transparent white shirt. She didn't resist since one way or another, she could get some release. Natasha noticed Jessica didn't really fight her advances, so she went with it. She held onto Jessica's nape and pulled her close, giving her an exploratory kiss. When she felt that Jessica is receptive to it, she gave her a deeper one. While she's Frenching Jessica, her free hand is snaking up Jessica's blouse. When she reached her boobs, Natasha gave it a light squeeze, which caused Jessica to release a moan. As retaliation, Jessica slipped her right hand under Natasha's panties and stroked her folds. This just makes Natasha's assault more aggressive. Natasha unlatched her left hand from Jessica's nipples to grab her ass. Natasha pulled Jessica close to her, then laid her down on the couch. She stopped kissing Jessica for a moment and recomposed herself. We need to move faster. He'll be here in 10 minutes. Natasha said while removing her top and panties. Jessica didn't even question Natasha and just followed her lead. She removed her shirt and shorts, revealing her perky boobs and pinkish white nipples and her trimmed pussy. Natasha gave Jessica another kiss before turning around and aligning her cunt to Jessica's face. Jessica immediately started licking Natasha's folds. Natasha returned the favor and used her fingers to play with Jessica's clitoris. That's how Naruto found the two of them, hungrily eating each other out. Am I missing something? Naruto said. He would have been shocked by the whole thing, but his libido is getting the best of him. How could it not? Two hot chicks going hard at it would cause any man to turn into a bubbling mess. Jessica decided she waited too long, so she went to me. Natasha replied with an innocent face while licking away Jessica's juice from her face. You're not going to make us wait any longer, are you? She asked in a sultry voice. Jessica's eyes are glazed over. Natasha has been eating her for quite a while, and it certainly turned her fires on. Naruto didn't even bother stripping and just sealed away all of his clothes. The problem was, he didn't know what to do next. Natasha reached for Naruto's hand and pulled him closer while Jessica continued eating her out. She grabbed Naruto's cock and started stroking his cock. She first gave a simple lick to the head, but that's enough for him to let out a large moan. Natasha then placed the head of his cock and started blowing it. She is slowly putting his cock deeper and deeper until she's finally deep-throating it. Naruto remembers the first time Natasha did it, he cummed fucking quickly. When he's more than ready, Natasha releases him, lined his cock to Jessica's cunt. She rubbed his dick through Jessica's folds and pushed it in. Jessica could feel Naruto's cock sliding into her, pushing her pussy's capacity to the limit. The length and girth are almost too much for her. Natasha turned around, cupped her face, and pecked her on the lips. Told you, he has no problem. Natasha cheekily commented, but Jessica is too out of it to reply. Naruto started moving a few minutes later. Natasha kept on kissing Jessica to push her past the discomfort and into pleasure. She moved her hands to Jessica's clit and started moving it in small circles. Jessica moaned hard as she cummed on Naruto's cock after Natasha started playing with her clit. The assault on her senses is almost too much for her. Natasha lifted her ass, wiggled it in front of Naruto. My turn, Natasha said. You're too into this, Haim. Naruto commented as he pulled out of Jessica, causing her to moan. Maybe, but don't dare deny that you love. Natasha never got to finish her statement since Naruto started pounding into her with reckless abandon. Jessica slowly snapped out her stupor and started suckling on Natasha's tits that are jiggling just above her. It was time for Natasha to come. She squirted all over Jessica, but Naruto didn't get to finish. That's why he pulled out of Natasha and rammed his dick hard deep into Jessica. Natasha turned around again, bringing her face close to Naruto's dick as it moves in and out of Jessica. She stuck out her tongue and started licking from Jessica's clitoris all the way to Naruto's length. The erotic scene was enough for Naruto to cum, but at least he has enough presence of mind to pull out of Jessica and rammed his 10-inch cock down Natasha's throat and released his seed straight to her stomach. As he was about to be finished, slowly pulled out, releasing a mouthful of cum on Natasha's mouth. Natasha sat down on Jessica's face and shook her hips, urging her to keep on eating her. Natasha opened her mouth, revealing a mouthful of cum to Naruto. She then got off Jessica and started kissing her, transferring Naruto's spunk to Jessica. Jessica had no idea how she got into that situation. She never would swallow anyone's cum, but the whole thing just turned her erotic side on to the maximum that she went along to anything sexual. She cupped Natasha's cheeks and started kissing her back. Both of them are playing with the cum inside of their mouths until Jessica eventually swallowed. Natasha and Jessica turned towards Naruto while kneeling on the floor and opened their mouths while sticking their tongues out, showing him that it's empty. Naruto's libido levels skyrocketed, seeing their display. "We're not fucking done," Naruto asserted. Naruto walked towards the pair and looped his arms around their hips, and carried them to the bedroom. Come by morning, Natasha would be reminded in the morning to turn on the apartment's blackout protocol since the front door has been plastered with different iterations of the same message. Shut the fuck up. Chapter 47. Redheads Have Temper. Triskelion, Washington, D.C. February 13, 2009, 0500H local. U3. Fury pointed to Coulson, Barden, and Romanoff. Come with me. He lifted the box of the podium and handed it over to Hill. I want you to burn that later, he said before walking out of the room, followed by the group. Fury walked across the hallways of the Triskelion and up the elevators until he reached his office. He inputted his biometric scan to open the door, then walked in. When the door closed, he pressed the button for the blackout protocol on his desk. What do you know, Romanoff? Fury inquired with a hard glare. Too much, Natasha answered promptly, but too little about this. She continued. Explain, Fury ordered. Natasha took a second to formulate an acceptable and coherent answer. This is one of the downsides of dating Naruto. Fury knows she knows stuff, and that fact is bugging the hell out of him. There are times she thinks that Naruto dates her for the express purpose of pissing Fury. Let me start from the end, boss, and work my way back because the first part would take over the whole conversation. Natasha said with a shake off her head. Just remembering the whole sorcerer incident is stressing the fuck out of her. We just got into bed at around 3 a.m. when Naruto said something about Tony being in trouble before leaving. She continued. 3 a.m. What the hell are you doing up at 3 a.m. when you're on vacation? Clint asked, but an idea came to his mind, and he suddenly backtracked. You know what? I don't want to know, he asserted. Get your mind off the gutter, Clint. Natasha scolded before adopting a mischievous and sultry grin. We finished at 12. I need my rest, you know, she added. Clint tried to cover ears as he doesn't want to hear the sex life of someone he considers a sister, but he's just too slow. Phil remained stoic as ever with his patented smile, but Natasha could make out a little pink dusting on his cheeks. Fury cleared his throat to get everyone's attention. Moving on. Any guesses how he knew and what he could have done after he left? Either he has someone looking over Stark or... Natasha replied while pulling out a Hiraishin kunai. He has something like this and was able to call for Naruto. She replaced the kunai to her holster. Ever since Natasha figured out what those knives do, she never went anywhere without it. As for what he did after he left, I have no idea. He might have rescued him or just went to get some intel. When he came back an hour ago, I just had him bring me here. Then he went again, she finished. Fury rubbed his forehead. The one thing he hates the most is being left in the dark, and Naruto is a fucking black hole. He typed into his computer until he found what he's looking for and turned the screen towards the audience, revealing Frank Castle's military picture. How about him? Do you know anything about why one of the best Force Recon is doing undercover bodyguard work for Stark? Fury asked with a raised eyebrow. Either Stark knew there's a threat to his life and hired the best guy he could find, or somebody knew he's in trouble and sent the same guy. Either way, Naruto is more than likely involved, Natasha answered with confidence. Fury thought what they should do next for a few moments. With Naruto taking point, the whole situation would be resolved quickly, but sitting back is not an option. My orders remain the same. I don't want Peggy Carter to rise from the grave because we didn't do anything to save his godson. Natasha almost went into a coughing fit hearing Fury talk about the exaggeration of Peggy Carter's demise. Now, we're done talking about the Stark fiasco, let's circle back to what you say is the first part of your story, he suggested. Ah, right, that one, Natasha let out, dreading the headache the following conversation would cause. I really don't want to report about this, but this is something you should know, boss, she said, giving everyone her thoughts about the topic. Just spit it out, Romanov, Fury exclaimed, wanting to get the conversation over with. Natasha took a deep breath and started. We were sleeping on our bed at around 2:30 when I woke up to a feeling of someone watching us. I reached for the knife under my bed and started to look around. That's when I saw two people standing at the foot of the bed, an African American man and a bald European woman. I threw my knives at them, but it just bounced off after they created circular sparking shields. Another one of Naruto's weird friends? Clint asked. That's what I thought too, so I woke Naruto up. After a struggle to get him out of bed, I finally managed to get them out of the room, but I eventually followed them to the living room. They introduced themselves as Karl Mordo and the Ancient One, Natasha said. Fury immediately turned the screen back to him, typed in the name Karl Mordo, searching their databases for it. Karl Mordo. Says here that the guy died 18 years ago. Fury turned the screen around towards the group. Is this him? He asked. Yeah, exactly that. He hasn't aged a day, Natasha commented as he's looking at the picture. What else did they say? Fury asked. There's only one message. Don't save Tony Stark, Natasha said with a serious look. Of course, he didn't take it well, so he led me back to the bedroom. Before we got inside, though, Mordo released some kind of rope to grab on Naruto's arm. He told me to get in the room, and everything after that is just a secondhand story from Naruto. He said that they brought him to another dimension and tried to trap him, but of course, it didn't work. She finished with a shrug. Can you give me a summary of this because it looks like you're saying magic is real? Clint requested sarcastically while cleaning his ear. Sorcerers visited Naruto to stop him from saving Tony Stark since they said that the fate of the universe depended on it, Natasha summarized. Fury walked back to his chair and flopped down. I missed it when the most amazing thing the world has ever seen is a man that could lift 5 times his body weight, Fury commented before looking back at Natasha. Any idea how to find them? Natasha thought back on every detail she got from the short meeting, examining it frame by frame, scene by scene until she could give something usable. Only one thing stood out, boss. They're wearing robes with an Asian influence. If it were me searching, I'd start looking anywhere in South or East Asia, Natasha suggested. That's a huge range, Fury commented. Good thing I'm not the one going to look for it, Natasha replied with a smug smile. Stark's Mansion, Malibu, Los Angeles. February 13, 2009, 0730H local. Naruto left the Triskelion in the middle of Fury's talk and decided just to sleep back in New York. He woke up a little earlier than the agreed time of his return but decided just to go to LA anyway, and it's one of the best choices he ever made. When he got to Tony's underground garage, he saw Pepper berating Tony at the other side of the hollow table while Yinsen and Frank are sitting at a table at the other side of the room, enjoying the show. He walked over towards the audience and pulled up a sit. Did I miss anything? Naruto whispered while still looking at the couple. Not much. She just got here 3 minutes ago, Frank answered while drinking his beer. What happened anyway? Naruto asked. Tony's chair force buddy, Frank started. Rody, Naruto interjected. Yeah, Rody. He called Stark's girl over there that we've been napped. The computer voice thingy. Jarvis. Naruto interjected again. Yeah, that alerted the redhead that we're here. So the girl ran down here and started to dress the living shit out of Stark. Frank finished, causing Yinsen and Naruto to snicker. Naruto then focused on Pepper berating Tony, thoroughly enjoying the show. I mean, how could you not tell me? You have a hole in your chest with a car battery sticking out of it. Isn't that enough to wake me up? You at least could have called Rhodey. I almost had a heart attack. Pepper shouted in a tirade, her face red with anger. I was going to tell you when you woke up. I didn't know you were going to wake up because of Rhodey's call. Tony defended until he noticed Naruto at the edge of his sight. Besides, Naruto needs to bring us back, he said, redirecting Pepper's ire towards Naruto, giving him a breather. What? Pepper shouted before turning her head towards Naruto. Shit, Naruto shouted, but Pepper is already heading towards him. He had to step back at the intensity of Pepper's glare. Frank and Yinsen made a tactical retreat. Why do you need to bring them back? Pepper shouted. Naruto let out, not able to form coherent sentences. Spit it out, Pepper shouted again, making Naruto jump 6 feet into the air. Because he still needs to be rescued. Naruto finally replied. He's already here, right? It means he's already rescued. Pepper reasoned. By me. Nobody knows about me, Naruto replied, but Pepper only flashed a confused look. Come on, Peps. Don't tell me you aren't even a little bit suspicious, right? Of course, Pepper was suspicious. The whole Naruto enigma is suspicious. He just gets in and out everywhere he goes, knows too much, and the entire endless pocket thing trick he does. She reasoned with herself that Naruto is some kind of super agent sent by a government agency to protect the family since the Starks is one of the backbones of America's economy. It kind of works out too since when Naruto and Tony first met, they took down a crime syndicate that's operating within their casino. The next time he comes back was a few months after Morgan. Pepper thought that the government wanted to help them keep Morgan safe. Naruto's help with rooting out spies supported her theory. Add the fact that Naruto is also dating some kind of super spy based on his stories, and it's practically a locked-in answer. You're a spy, right? Pepper blurted out, mirroring her thoughts. Fuck. No, Naruto exclaimed. Except for my Heim, of course. He automatically added before he shook his head to focus back on the conversation. Getting back on track. I'm not a spy, I'm just a guy on vacation forever. Ask Frank over there, he said while pointing at Castle. I met him while on vacation in Afghanistan. Frank had to shake his head, remembering that particular conversation. He had a fucking migraine after it. Sir, the fabrication is done. Both items are ready to come up, Jarvis said, putting an end on Pepper's warpath. Go ahead, Jarvis. Put up the reactor first, Tony replied before looking towards Yinsen. Come on, you helped build it, you'll help to place it in, he said as he walks towards the floor space, which suddenly opened. You realize I'm not that kind of doctor, don't you? Yinsen retorted, but he still walked over towards Tony. He stopped in his tracks, though, when he saw the glowing blue cylinder rising on the podium. See this. This is the future, Tony boasted while picking up the miniature arc reactor and walking towards the reclining chair. Yinsen followed Stark, excited with the opportunity to hold something like the arc reactor. What are they going to do? Pepper asked, nervous after getting the first real look at the electromagnet in Tony's chest even at a distance. He's going to change the magnet to something more portable and powerful. He needs more juice for the next part of his plan, Naruto answered. What next plan? Pepper asked again. Now that's a surprise. You don't have to wait long, though, since they're almost done, Naruto replied while pointing Tony standing up from the chair. Pepper finally saw the real size of the electromagnet, and it's a lot larger than she thought. Jarvis, you can pull up the next one, Tony ordered. Of course, sir, Jarvis replied. A large panel on the floor opened. Slowly, the group can finally see what Project Knight is all about. A hulking behemoth of metallic gray armor made of thick panels of steel and hydraulics. They can see guns and canisters placed around the suit. Tony walked over to the suit of armor and inspected it all around. A lot cruder than what I would like, but what can you do in 6 hours? Tony commented with a shrug. Tony, what's that? Pepper shouted. This would make sure that we make out of the cave hole. Tony replied while pushing a button on the side, and the front armor lifted. He then walked to the inside of the armor and closed the panel. What are you doing? Pepper asked. Tony releases a breath of exasperation. He understands that Pepper is asking all these questions out of worry, but this is all too much. I'm going to wear this, and we're going to walk out of the cave. Frank would be right behind me, shooting at everything not friendly while Yinsen would hang back. Tony laid out their plan, so Pepper knows what they would do and can calm down a little. The suit started up, enabling Stark to move around. He walked towards Pepper, who's holding in her tears. Don't worry, Peps, this thing, he said while tapping his chest, can stop half a case of 50 calories machine gun rounds. It'll hurt for sure, but I'll be alright. He placated. Pepper gave a small nod and tried to hug Tony, but the armor made it a hard task. So Tony lifted his helmet and leaned a little, giving Pepper a kiss. Tony separated from Pepper and moved towards the blank wall and removed his gloves. He placed his palm on the corner, and it split open. I thought you got rid of that, Pepper stated in a slightly cold tone. Good thing I didn't, right? Tony retorted cheekily before turning towards Frank and Yinsen. Take your pick. The more, the better, he said. Frank walked towards the wall and scanned it. He started pulling down guns, knives, and mags. He handed over an Uzi and a handgun towards Yinsen when he got closer. We need a bag, food and water as well. We might wander around the desert for a while before a rescue team could find us, Frank suggested while checking over the guns. I got your back, Naruto replied from the sidelines. He reached for his back with both hands and took out 3 duffel bags with the left hand and 3 military backpacks with another. He tossed all of it on the floor with the packs sounding full. Yinsen walked over to the bag and opened it, revealing an assortment of crackers, MREs and emergency water. The duffel bag is for anything else you might need, Naruto added before reaching behind him again. I forgot that I got this too, showing them 3 special forces grade bulletproof vest. Just save the last one for Tony after all the chaos. Frank stood up from his spot and took a duffel bag and 2 vests, leaving the last one for Yinsen and giving Naruto a grateful nod when he stood up. He placed a vest in the bag and extra guns. Yinsen put on the vest and took 2 backpacks, placing one at the front and another at the back. He did this since Tony would not be able to carry the bag while in the suit, and Frank is already carrying the duffel bag. The backpacks would hinder his maneuverability, but it's better to be him than Frank. Frank finished packing up and looked towards Yinsen. When he saw Yinsen packed up, he turned towards Tony and nodded, indicating that they're ready. Tony walked over to Pepper and leaned down a little. We'll be back in 3 days to a week. Don't worry, Pep, I'll come back, Tony said before kissing her again. He then walked towards Frank and Yinsen. Don't worry, Pepper, I'll watch over them. If they're not found in a week, I'll lead Rhodey to where they are. Naruto reassured Pepper as he hugged her. Naruto walked over towards the trio and reached behind him again and pulled out 3 Hiraishin kunai. Take one, Naruto ordered. Tony, Frank, and Yinsen took one each but giving it a skeptical look. Keep that on you at all times. If there are any emergencies, just throw it to the ground or to where the crisis is. The trio pocketed the knife to wherever they can place it. At the bottom of the backpacks are red tags. Pull it right before you get rescued. It would burn the whole thing, making sure that nothing points towards me. Understand? Tony and Yinsen immediately nodded, but Frank needs to get one last word in. Geez, you're more paranoid than some spooks, Frank commented. Naruto let out a small grunt before grabbing the straps of the bag of Frank and Yinsen while placing his palm on Naruto's armor. Give them hell, eh? Naruto said before the whole group disappeared, leaving the dumbfounded Pepper. Pepper stood there for quite a while, staring at where the group was standing before she was snapped out of her stupor. Ma'am, Morgan is finally awake, Jarvis reported. Pepper shook her head and walked out of the garage, silently praying for everyone's safety. Chapter 48. Breaking Out. Kamar Taj, Kathmandu, Nepal. February 13, 2009, 1245H local. Mordo. Is everyone else okay? The Ancient One asks as Mordo walked towards her. It's a weird feeling for her, asking the well-being of her disciples. The brief contact they had with the fox was enough to blur their immediate future, making her blind even with the use of an infinity stone. Yes, Ancient One, Mordo replied with a small bow. No more additional casualties. I was the last one to leave. He continued. I also sent a few masters to retrieve the bodies, or at least as much as they can get without alerting the fox. Thank you, the Ancient One replied. Mordo accepted his master's gratitude. The pair stood over the balcony overlooking the training fields where the sorcerers are calming themselves down. Seeing your colleagues ripped apart with the real threat of following the same fate is enough to stress anyone out. Especially the apprentices who have never experienced real-life combat. Mordo was looking at the sorcerer's shaken expression when he decided to break the silence and asked the question that's been bugging him ever since the mirror dimension. Can we fight him? Mordo asked in a silent whisper. Of course, we can fight him. The Ancient One replied. But that's not the right question to ask. She added. Can we win? Mordo amended his question. I'm not sure. The Ancient One confessed. There are just too many unknowns about him, but from what I saw, we would need an army of masters specializing in detection and combat to have a winning chance. She explained. Mordo had to agree with his master's assessment. Their whole encounter with the fox was just a series of surprises and fuck-ups. He's sure that the Ancient One noticed that the fox was only playing them, evident by his calm demeanor throughout the whole confrontation. We should have marked the location of their apartment. Mordo let out. They only found the fox by a group of 5 eldest masters sending their consciousness to the newly opened chakra network and finding anything that's out of place. A dangerous venture that cost them the lives of 4 of the masters that turned to stone, but the radical idea bore fruit. The last one was able to find an anomaly. A self-contained source of chakra that has emissions barely, but its presence alone was enough to distort the natural chakra network around it, just like a black hole. A massive invisible force of nature that alters the space around it. The master was able to open a portal to the fox's location before his limbs turn into stone. Too bad they didn't try to find out where the exact location was geographical. All they know was that it's somewhere in New York. And with the knowledge of the fox with runes, they might be able to find him like that again. We can't do much about what happened in the past. We can only prepare for the future. The Ancient One advised before a novice recruit came running towards them. The novice gave them a bow of respect before reporting. The masters that just came back from the mirror dimension wanted to report something. The novice reported. The Ancient One and Mordo looked at each other with worry. They wouldn't call for the Sorcerer Supreme without a significant reason. It is more concerning if it has something to do with the bodies of the sorcerers. Tell them that we would be right by. The Ancient One ordered. The novice bowed again before leaving. She released a sigh and looked towards Mordo. Let's go. I want to finish to know what could be worse than having somebody ripped apart. She said before starting to walk to the hospital wing. Mordo followed behind the Ancient One while calming himself down using one of Kamar Taj breathing techniques. His mind was running to different scenarios of what could have happened with the apprentices and masters. When they finally entered the morgue, he counted 27 tables with bodies covered with mystical white fabrics that would preserve the body as long as it's covering their body. The Ancient One walked towards the masters with Mordo following close behind. Is this everyone? The Ancient One asked, referring to the bodies. As far as we can tell, yes. A master answered for the group. We counted 22 apprentices and 5 masters. We have retrieved most of their bodies, but some parts just can't be recovered, like most of the abdomen for some of them. He explained. At least we can give them a proper burial. The Ancient One said with a sad voice. What did you want to tell me about the bodies? She asked, wanting to get to the point of the conversation. The master had to open rubbed his forehead, dreading the conversation. He extended his arms behind him to one of the other masters, which promptly handed him a sack bag. We took this bag to gather all the valuables they might have. The master explained while handing it over to the Ancient One. The Ancient One took the bag and opened it, seeing that there's nothing inside. This is empty, the Ancient One retorted, thinking why would they give the bag to her until she realized a crucial detail and looked at her hand and the other masters. Where are their sling rings? She asked in a whisper. They have nothing on them except for their clothes. The master replied, already knowing how dire is the situation. Is there any sign of the fox still in the mirror dimension? The Ancient One inquired. No, but we're not looking for him since we want to keep some distance from him. The master explained, which the Ancient One understood and supported. We must assume that he can get out of the mirror dimension in the future if he's not out already. The Ancient One stated. The group was silent, contemplating the disaster if the fox could bounce around the world. The cunningness and the skill of the fox are extremely worrying already. We need to make sure that the next timeline nexus must happen. The Ancient One asserted. What is the next event? Mordo asked from the sidelines. We need to make sure the sleeping soldier wakes up. The Ancient One replied. Captain America needs to be found. Stark Industries main office, New York. February 13, 2009, 0900H local. Obadiah Stane. The business mogul and a father figure of Tony Stark. He's a 6'1", blue-eyed, 65-year-old man who has one of the best business-oriented minds in the world. He was a friend and rival of Howard Stark, Tony's father. They met each other through Maria Stark, who Stane once dated. When the Starks died in a car accident in 1991, Stane stepped up and held the company together until the golden child, Tony Stark, can take over the company again. Stane was pushed to the sidelines and later became a business partner to Tony's growing company. Of course, he didn't like that he was now only receiving scraps from the multi-billion-dollar company, but he didn't become known as a business mogul for not thinking stuff through. He waited for his time, making connections, and preparing moves for the future. The first thing Stane did was to build up his war chest for an eventual takeover. Good thing he has the perfect way to do it. Being in the weapons manufacturing industry, it's easy to find people with less than stellar reputations. Stane started fudging data to give some buyers more than they bargained for as long as he was given a cut. This side business snowballed into a highly profitable business that caters to the lowest of the low, corrupt governments, tyrants, and terrorist groups. The moment Stane has enough money to raise his stock share from 10% to 51% to have a majority share, he enacted the second stage of his plan, removing Tony Stark, and he has the perfect opportunity to do it, Tony's trip to Afghanistan. He only heard about it through the grapevine since Stark has been weirdly keeping a distance from almost everyone for at least 3 years, even him. He has never placed a foot on the Stark mansion in Los Angeles at the same time frame. Stane called Raza Hamidmi al-Wazar, or simply Raza, a 5'9", 40-year-old, an Afghan man, who also happens to be the general of the 10 Rings, one of the most vicious terrorist cells. Their job? Kill Tony Stark. He made some moves to make sure Tony is in the best possible situation for an ambush, but it seems it didn't work out since they captured Tony Stark and some guy he didn't know about. Raza started extorting him for more money when they found out how valuable was the target. Stane was debating with himself if he should just pay or get rid of Raza to tie loose ends. The choice seems to be clear, but there seems to be a more problematic development. What do you mean he got away? Stane shouted to his 3-level encryption phone. I didn't say he got away. I said he disappeared, Raza replied. A few hours ago, the camera feed from Stark's jail cell failed, prompting the guards to call him over. He ordered his men to enter the room to check out what's the problem, but no matter how much they push through, they can't get in. It took them almost 10 minutes to push through the door, which suddenly lost all its resistance. When they got in, no one was inside. Of course, he tried to find them but to no avail. That's the same thing. I thought you were at least a competent, but it seems you're as useless as the rest of them. Stane shouted. He would have continued with his tirade if his secretary's voice didn't blare through the speakerphone. Mr. Stane, your 9 o'clock has arrived, the secretary said. Stane rubbed his forehead to settle down the headache that's forming. Fix your fucking mess, Raza. Kill him, and I'll double the deal, Stane ordered. Triple, Raza replied. Fucking terrorists, Stane said to himself. Just do it, he said before ending the call. Stane took a calming breath and pushed a button on the phone. Send them in, Stane said to his secretary. A few seconds later, an unassuming man in a suit walked into Stane's office. The man walked towards him and extended his hand. Good morning, Mr. Stane. I'm Agent Coulson from S.H.I.E.L.D. Phil introduced himself. Stain hid his momentary panic. An agent coming to him is never a good sign if Tony's kidnapping happened just a few hours ago, but he played it cool. Still, Phil Coulson recognized the panic. Stain held onto Phil's hand and shook it. Shield. Never heard of it. Stain replied genuinely before releasing Phil's hand. That's the way we like it. Phil replied with a smile before adopting a more professional look. I'm here to determine the possibility of Mr. Stark to cut a deal with his kidnappers to save himself. Stan walked over to the liquor table and poured himself a drink. Have you already been informed that Mr. Stark has been kidnapped? Coulson continued when Stain remained silent. Stain swirled his drink, taking a moment to formulate his answer. Tony is a one-of-a-kind man. A mind that comes only once every century. Nobody can deny that. Stain drank a swig from his glass. But there's something that comes with that, a stubbornness no one can match and an ungodly amount of skill to piss someone off. He added, unconsciously channeling his frustration about Tony's disappearing act. So I'm saying it right here and now. There's no fucking way Tony would betray his country. He finished. Phil stood there for a moment, studying Stain's words and nuances. That's all I needed to hear, Phil said while pulling out a calling card from his inner jacket pocket. You can call me using this number if you have anything else to say. He continued while handed over the calling card. I'll leave you to your business, Mr. Stain. Thank you for your time, he said before walking out of the office. Stain looked over the card before drinking everything in his glass with one shot. Phil, on the other hand, started dialing a number on his phone. He waited for someone to answer before starting to talk. Stain knows something. Northern Afghanistan. February 13, 2009, 1930H local. The group appeared at the only blind spot in the room from the CCTVs, although it's a tight fit, especially with Tony in his armor. Naruto grabbed Tony's helmet and pulled him closer. Remember, show them no mercy because they will show you none of it. They would rather kill you than exposing themselves, Naruto said while staring straight into Tony's eyes. If you want to marry Pepper in the future, which I say you're crazy if you're not planning on it, and get home to Morgan, you need to push your emotions aside temporarily and deal with all that crap later. You get me, he finished. Tony internalized everything Naruto just said. He acknowledges and agrees with everything, but it's never easy to make a soldier out of a man. It took him quite a while before Naruto noticed that Tony is finally in the correct mindset to do it. I'll be waiting outside maybe a kilometer away, so go wild, Naruto said before disappearing. Tony checked his gear, which Frank and Yinsen followed. Why didn't Naruto just give us the gear after we busted out of here? Yinsen asked. He's been thinking about it since right before they left Tony's garage. Yinsen's question stopped Frank's checking out his gear. Motherfucker, Frank let out, which caused Tony to chuckle. Come on, we still need to bust out of here, Tony said, getting the group's attention into focus. He worked his way in front of them. They are now starting to hear shouting coming from outside the door. Somebody probably saw the massive armor suddenly appearing inside the cell. Ready? He asked. I'm just waiting for your sorry ass, Frank replied from behind the Tony while simultaneously cocking his rifle. I'm good, Yinsen answered. All right, let's wreck us some terrorists, Tony declared before marching a few feet in front of the door while keeping a little bit of the side. Frank moved forward and planted a few charges around the door. He walked behind Tony again, waiting for the perfect time to blow it. The vault-style door handle started to turn, and Frank knew this was the ideal time. He pushed a button, and colossal explosion propelled the door outward, immediately taking out a few terrorists at the other side. Tony marched forward while keeping his arms aimed and swiveling around, looking for any threat that might suddenly show up at the corner. He stepped over the bodies while resisting the urge to look down. He can feel the slippery wet floor with some steps feeling more squishy than the others. When Tony reached the down door, he has no choice but to look down so he could step over it. But it quickly became apparent that it's a bad idea. He saw a man with multiple contusions to his face. It was all deep enough that he could see the skull. He could also see a semi-solid gel flowing out of a deep crack by the side of his head. Frank saw Tony slightly panicking, so he started knocking on his armor. Keep it together now, panic later, Frank said with authority. trying to keep Tony's focus on the task at hand. It worked, though, since Tony started walking forward again. As soon as they turned the corner, Tony was immediately assaulted by a rain of gunfire. He started firing the machine gun on his arm towards the group, with Frank shooting too while using him as cover. Yinsen stayed behind the corner. The terrorists didn't even stand a chance with the Tony and Frank combo. The pair mowed down everyone they come across, with Yinsen lagging, making sure that the duo didn't miss anyone. The trio moved in that formation until they reached a large cavern with multiple corridors. A large group formed a firing squad, with a few of them carrying machine guns. As soon as Tony went into the firing squad's view, the team opened fire at them. Tony had to backtrack against the hail of bullets. "Fucking hell," Tony exclaimed. He's not sure if his armor could handle all of it. Frank gave their group a fighting chance with his quick thinking when he tossed 2 flashbangs toward the firing squad. When the gunfire stopped, Tony rushed forward and gunned down the team while simultaneously using the flamethrower. Tony something at the corner of his eye, which caused him to be alarmed. "RPG!" Tony shouted. Frank made a quick turn and shot down the man with the RPG. Tony's flamethrower caused it to blow up, caving in some corridors. "The corridor to the left. Go, go," Frank shouted, pointing Tony to where they should head next. As the group moves out of the cave, Yinsen had to use his gun a few times to shoot at some enemies they missed during their first run through. Tony could finally see the exit, and he was surprised by what he saw. Aside from another firing squad set up around the cave opening, he also recognized several different size cases marked with his company's logo. Like the last time, the firing squad opened fire at them, but Tony didn't back down this time. He let the armor absorb the abuse, with Frank occasionally shooting down men with RPG or grenades. "Our turn," Tony said with an excited tone before he emptied his guns and flamethrower ammo. "Making sure every weapon from his company is burned or destroyed." Frank followed Tony's example and opened fire on everyone while occasionally tossing grenades and C4 packs to the weapon cache. By the end of it all, the open space in front of the cave is flames, bodies, and craters. Tony's group walked around the fires and started walking towards the open desert. Frank took the lead, followed by Yinsen and finally, Tony. This setup is used so that if anyone coming after them would aim at the armored man first before anyone else. Tony couldn't resist but turn around when they're quite some distance away and saw a mesmerizing sight. Tall flames are rising up high, illuminating the nighttime sky. "That's just one of them," Tony said to himself, thinking how much Stark Industries weapons are in the hands of other groups like this. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as well as checking out the author on fanfiction.net.